This is now the 4th week, and in the 4th week we're going to talk about trying to get your sense of direction. So I thought it would be best if I just shot this. I'm going to probably cut to a map after I'm finished filming this, but sense of direction is important, especially if you have to splinter off from the main group and find your way. Now this is obvious. We got a path that cuts through Hawk Hollow. It actually goes back and forth, but it heads south and it heads north. You can probably see the bridge up there if the sunlight is not too distracting. But I kind of know if I follow one way, I'll end up south. The problem would be in Colorado, it might not be that evident about which way we're going or where the trail is. You can do something called hand railing. That's when, if you look this way, and I know that this is all pasture, and that's where the sun is over there, that side, I can usually hand rail and figure out if I keep this pasture to my right, keep the sun to my left, I'll end up at the destination point. But that doesn't always happen, especially if it's very thick woods, or if there's too much brush, or if there's overcast. You're not going to know where the sun is. So hand railing is important as far as geological structures. If you are not used to carrying a compass, and again I'll show that later, get used to compass reading, because if you're lost and you at least know where north is, you'll know where we start. We'll all be starting together. You'll know where we end or camp. We'll all be hopefully camping together. And between the 2 points, you'll know that in a general sense, you're supposed to head south. So compass reading is very important. Even if you're in Chicago, if you get used to taking out your compass, no matter where you are, and knowing north, south, east, west when you pull it out, that's great. I have a Sunto, and I'll show that later. If you rely on a GPS device, whether it's Apple Watch, iPhone, or you have a GPS, if you have true GPS capability, much better. But the problem would always be if you don't know what your device is capable of doing, it might not serve you when we're in the mountains. So always know what you're able to deal with. Always know that there's going to be other options, but you always have to have backup devices. So even if you have GPS, I would still get used to knowing the handrail system, knowing your geological anatomies, having a compass. And then finally, we have to know how to map read. So you can see this limestone pebble path. You can see grass, and that's cool. But if you look on most maps, whether it's National Geographic, and it shows, sometimes it'll show it to scale, or give you a scale that'll be equal to the compass. Or it'll be a topographical map where you can see incline and elevation changes. I think it's all helpful. But again, getting used to knowing where you are, knowing your geological positions or your objects, and then knowing how to read a map in addition to your compass, in addition to your GPS device, really important. It gives you more variety and more fail-safes in case one doesn't work, in case it's overcast.
You should be used to knowing which way is north. And I'm pointing this way because on this map, this is a map from Arches National Park that I used last season, and there's always a stamp. Number one, they usually are mapped so that the top of your map will be north and the bottom will be south. But you do have these mini compasses that you can use for reference. This is a compass. This is mine, my Sunto that I use. It will always tell you which way is north. North is where that red arrow is pointing. So if you're not sure where you are, you kind of just throw a bearing, you see where the red arrow is, and then you adjust your position to be always north. So that now I know that's the position I'm going in. If I'm heading that way, then I'll know I'll be going due southwest. So again, you have to get used to reading this thing, but if you carry this wherever you are, even if you're in downtown Chicago and you flick it out, you might look like a dork because people will be saying, why does he need that? But you'll at least get used to where you are in the city as far as knowing what's north, what's south, and your directional sense. Again, if you use maps like this is National Geographic's map. I like these because they're kind of wax coated. They're a little bit water resistant. I still put them in a waterproof pad, but they also have a marker right here. I'm not sure if you can see it, but you can match up true north to what your magnetic north is, and we don't really have to get into that. The objective is that you won't have to have a GPS with you. I have my GPS, and this is also a two-way communicator, but you don't have to buy your own, because the problem would always be cell phones might tell you GPS, but you're going to lose reception when we get to Colorado's mountains. So you can't rely on that. You might have to go old school. You definitely have to learn how to read a map, because as I mentioned in our video, if we splinter off and some group or a pair wants to go take pictures somewhere, the rest of the group doesn't have to wait. But somebody, if we split off or splinter off, in that splinter has to have a map. This is what we use for local stuff within Illinois. DuPage County is pretty decent. They have all the forest preserves in the area. And then if you wanted to go to a specific forest preserve, you can get an idea of what the trail system is like, what the distance is like. This is 0.5 and it's a loop. I think that the one I have for Bussy Woods, this is a really nice place to hike in Schaumburg, right south of east of the Woodfield Mall. And if you look at this map, again, it's oriented where top of what you're reading is north, bottom of what you're reading is south, and you can have a pretty good idea about the trail system in Bussy Woods. So the trail system is marked as red. That's this. It's a loop, and the loop, well marked over here, has mileage points. The red loop is 7.2 miles. I don't know if you can see that. The black, there is also a black, a combinations of black connectors, 2.3 miles. Actually, the black is here. It's not really a loop, but and then you have smaller connectors in purple. So nice organization, really nice map. It gives you major roadways in the area, and it tells you where you're supposed to go. Now, the problem with a loop is that if a loop is separated by a body of water, and that's what you should know too, you can sometimes cut through. You're not supposed to cut through in a trail system, especially if it's forest preserve, because you might trample the trillium. But I've gone here before when it started to rain and I had to cut through this forest preserve to get to a faster position. And I had to kind of, you kind of bushwhack your way through forest. You got to be careful with ticks. You have to be careful with getting hit by somebody else's branch that they're bending forward. And you have to be careful about getting stuck in water. So now that's why a map is always good, or reading a map is important. So if you happen to have no map reading skills and you're used to GPS, well, please get used to it. You can either get these at your local forest preserves, or you can download your own from the website, whether it's DuPage County and their maps or Cook County and their maps. If you happen to get to a REI, you can get one of their National Geographic maps from Colorado and get used to it. I'll be releasing where we're going to go in Colorado soon, not just yet, but the bottom line is that you have to get used to north, you have to get used to reading, get used to taking a bearing and picking up a compass, and it should be a good compass. If you get those cheapies that have water in them, the problem with that is if it gets cold, it drops temperature, the water will freeze up and it's going to change the accuracy of your bearing.
No matter what, you'll always have a backup option to go to. And then finally, if you can't, then you just hunker down, get some shelter, divvy up your food and your water sources, and you wait for help. Not all of us will have a satellite phone, but I'm not going that deep into the woods or the wilderness of, but hopefully we'll not even have to splinter off. But the objective again is to have the option in case it comes up, and then we are able to participate in a really nice hike without any worries. You go without a hitch, and you really be able to dive into nature and just see wilderness and bounty.